no form of lead generation that is going to be able to deliver you leads where some of them, if not a lot of them, don't suck. And I would argue you want those sucky leads because those are going to help you sharpen your sword, and some of those are going to convert.
Embrace the sucky leads.
How do you feel about the market? Like, I feel like everybody I talk to is just like kind of wants retail, not super motivated. A cash offer never makes sense. It's almost always a creative pitch.
Here's the thing. We can't just go to, it's like cash offer doesn't work, go creative. You know what I mean? There has to be, stronger negotiations. We can't be so quick to come up to the number. Like we gotta, there's gotta be the song and dance of, why the number is what it is, justifying the number pursuant to, the repairs and everything. I mean, if somebody's not motivated, does not matter what we do with the number. There's got to be some level of motivation. The reality is, it's unlikely everybody in this industry is like so worried about another offer coming in and getting the deal out from under them. Not saying you guys are, but I feel like, so we rush to like come up on our offer. Oh, but they said they wanted, $275,000. Yeah, but the market and the comps and the condition dictate we offer them 200 to 225. Yeah, so I came in at 220. Why'd we come in at 220? Like start at 200. Let them earn the 225. And like studies show that they're more likely to be happy if they worked to get that 225, not you just came right up to their number. You know what I mean? So let them clear the deck. Like we had a guy yesterday. This is a perfect example. My new acquisitions guy had a call and I was like, all right, well, I'm not gonna, he's got this guy on the phone, guy wants an offer, whatever. The guy wanted $45,000 for the property, which, didn't seem too terrible, right? And I was like, cool, we're gonna offer him $25,000. And the thing that I love about this new guy is the guy sticks to the script. His tonality is phenomenal. Like he's just like very even keel. He's great at building rapport. And just like, he basically doesn't really have much of an opinion on what should be done. So he just does what he's told to do on the call, which is great. That'll eventually change as he gets more educated and, starts to have an opinion, and then he'll start to like deviate, right? So
Are you just
if
using
you guys are
the standard script?
Yeah, they're a client script. Yep.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, offer him 25 grand. And he offered him 25 grand. And the guy didn't hang up on him, didn't say no. We basically offered him like 50% of what he was asking for. And he was thinking about it and was considering it. So, and the thing that I really like about this acquisition guy is he's like, I was like, I don't know if we should start working on figuring out who's wasting your time and who's like a reasonable person to talk to, because obviously we don't have all the time in the world. And he's like, yeah, but I want to get these reps in making offers that are wildly low and be able to do it. I forget the word he used, but to basically do it and not feel like any type of way about it. Just do it because that's what it is, because we're just making the offer, let them be mad about it, right? And then justify it and then be on their side and work with them and everything. So it doesn't sound like you have a lead generation problem. It's a lead conversion problem because you're making a ton of offers. How much are you negotiating with people after you give them your cash offer?
And half the time I don't even give them a cash offer.
That's your first problem.
This guy's been on and off the market, last listed for 140. He just relisted it for 100.
And what would your offer be?
We didn't even talk about cash.
If you were going to talk about cash with them, what would the number need to be?
60, 50.
50 or 60. Okay, got it. What kind of offer did you make him creatively?
We weren't on the phone very long, but it basically said, if you're at 100 grand, you're looking at netting 85 after closing costs. We'll give you 85. We'll rent it out at $1,000 a month for 36 months. You'll end up getting about 125 out of it at the end of the timeline.
What was his motivation for selling?
It's kind of easy to Monday morning quarterback it, but at the time I don't know, tone and like speech and all that. But I mean, yeah, it's easy to say you should get motivation at first, but I don't know Andrew was going through?
Yes and no, right? Like, it's not that it's easy to say. It's like, it is absolutely paramount. Because, like, think about it, right? Like, and here's the problem with creative finance. There's probably an infinite amount of ways you could structure a deal. Picture and imagine, everybody here has played skee ball. So the thing about skee ball is you have like 5 or 6 holes that you can get the ball in, right?
Yeah.
Picture and imagine trying to accomplish anything if there were a million holes on that board. Like, what hole are you going for? You're just freaking throwing the ball and like wherever it goes, right?
Yep.
So that's the problem with creative finance. And that's why if you're going to do creative finance, it's even more important. Like, the motivation is literally the number one most important thing in the call, because my goal from motivation is to get rid of options. You know, it's like playing blackjack, right? Like, it's you against the house, but everybody else that's at the table, they're taking cards that could be your cards, right? So you want them folding. So it's literally just you and the house. We have no idea. Like, he dropped his price, his listing price, from 140 to 100. There's definitely some motivation there. My guess is, right, if he didn't just jump on your number after having it being on and off the market, is that motivation is probably reasonably tied to needing like a sizable chunk of cash, like, immediately. Maybe not. I don't know. If that was his reasoning for selling, then like those terms mean absolutely nothing to him.
He just bought it in January for $35K and flipped it.
So $35K, how big is it?
1,300 square feet.
Was it a full like cosmetic flip?
Yeah, he bought it January 26th for 35 grand, and 3 weeks later he listed it for 149.
Okay, so he probably put what, 35 to 40 grand into it?
He probably put more, so now he's like taking a haircut.
Either A, it's all his own cash. My guess is it's probably not his own cash, because if it was his own cash, he could just sit on it and wait, or he could, and just ride it out. So the only other option is he's got a hard money loan at like 10 to 12% interest, and he's getting freaking hammered on holding costs. Based on the result of this deal, he's not doing enough, and he probably doesn't have the sales ability. So he doesn't have the track record, the sales ability, or the ability to get somebody to give him a private loan at, a 6 or 7%. So he's probably paying 12 to 15%, to a private money partner. That terms offer does nothing for him. And if it's a short-term loan that has to be paid back at a specific date, then it does even less for him.
There's one thing that I know that Chris can speak to, other than knowing motivation and how much the cash offer was that they really needed. Why would it be important to share that cash offer anyway?
Where you can get a down payment for the creative?
It helps you structure what that really looks like, yeah. And
yep,
also
that's one.
Price anchoring. So instead of going to the creative, we need a price to anchor to. And however you say it is fine, but I know we like to say sharing what a cash offer would look like from someone like us should usually be the place to start, especially if it's what Chris brought up before, where it's like investors, maybe not you guys, but being worried about someone else coming in that's an investor to take the deal away. It's just giving reality. And I have a perfect example that Chris probably spent, I don't know, a total of 10 hours on the phone with various people. The seller went from literally saying, "You're a bunch of crooks, you're holding me hostage, you offered me a lowball offer, my property's worth way more, I have another offer on the table, but we filed a memo and we were under contract." And they were pissed. This dude was pissed. All the way flash forward to the end, he's like, "Thank you, I would totally recommend you guys." That I did the numbers eventually after all things considered, and I realized that there is no way that guy could have offered me the number that he originally offered me. That your offer was legitimate. So that just shows you time changes circumstance. It was listed for $140K. It was relisted for $100,000. His cash offer should be shared with him, right? That would be about 50 to 60K. And the reason I say I think he put less money in and not a lot was because how much you can actually spend as a really experienced rehabber in the course of 3 weeks. Tony knows this, and if you think about it from that perspective, whether this is true or not, whether I'm right or whether I'm wrong, the dude probably didn't put that much money into it, because to mobilize a crew to put in $10,000 to $15,000 a week, you got to have a really locked in scope of work. Ostensibly, this might not be the case.
Or
you got to have a payment schedule, the benchmarks, the milestones. You got to really know how to manage the process of the project. The dude bought it in his own name. That is one indication he's probably not a savvy investor, which that is not a slight on him. That's just to say that he probably just put lipstick on a pig and then overestimated the ARV and put it there. And then he's got enough room to where he can drop it $40K.
Or he did the work himself.
Right.
No, or he had a big ticket item, like a roof or an HVAC unit. A roof goes up in one day.
Right.
Yeah,
that's true. You're right. You're right about that. So while we don't know the specifics,
Right.
the reality is Tony might be right. He might have put in more. He might have put in less. You know, but the reality is we don't know because Andrew hadn't talked about that yet, right? Which is important.
Quick epic announcement. If you're generating leads but struggling to close deals, we want to partner with you. We'll get on the phone with your leads and secure the contract, whether it's a cash or creative deal. And lastly, if you're struggling to sell a wholesale deal or creative, we want to find you the right buyer. Just go to closeanddispo.com and scroll to the bottom of the page for more info, or check out the link in the description of this video. Together, we'll make real estate investing easy. Now let's get back to the video.
I'd love to know what you would have said in questioning. Like, what did you do to the property? Like, it looks turnkey, the pictures look good, but you only had it for 3 weeks before you listed it. So what exactly did you do to the property?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely ask, those questions, try to understand, like, what was done, what weren't you able to get done, that still needs to be done. But here's the other thing, right? Like, Eric Klein's script, the cover page that he has this pre-game things listed on here. I'll just read them to you. So 1, treat every lead the same. 2, a sale takes place on every single call. Either you're selling them on why they should sell their house to you, or they're selling you on why they shouldn't sell their house to you. It takes time to take houses. Like, we can't be doing 3-minute phone calls. Like, for 90% plus of the people that you talk to, like, what you're trying to buy from them over the phone, never meeting them in person, is literally the largest asset that they have ever owned and maybe will ever own. Some of these people have literally broken generational curses of, like, coming from families that have never owned a home, and they're the first person in their entire, like, lineage that has ever owned a home. That's a big deal. But we're conditioned because, like, we just do this every day, like, and we just, like, chop it up and have, like, random discussions about it, like it's freaking, buying a can of Coke. Don't prejudge the lead. The leads don't suck, right? Like, the reality is, like, are there sucky leads? Absolutely, there are sucky leads. But, like, the leads in general don't suck, right? Like, we have to go through. Like, I looked at our numbers. Out of every 100 leads we get, we lock up 6.5 contracts. Like, Hall of Fame baseball players, they don't hit the ball 70% of the time. If we looked at those numbers and we just looked at them objectively and we said 70% of the time you shit the bed, we could sell ourselves on the fact that they suck. But then when you look at the big picture and you say, wait a second, the people that miss 70% of the time and hit the other 30% of the time, they are the best of the best of the best of the best of the best. There is no better. Now that makes you look at it from a whole different lens, right? So, like, I know that 93.5 of the leads that we get, we're not going to lock up. Does that mean the leads suck? Sure, some of them probably suck, but the leads like, we have to go through sucky leads. Like, there's no lead gen system out there. There's no pay-per-click. There's no freaking, event that somebody's going to set a booth up at. There's no Facebook ad, there's no TV ad, there's no radio ad, there's no nothing, no form of lead generation that is going to be able to deliver you leads where some of them, if not a lot of them, don't suck. And I would argue you want those sucky leads because those are going to help you sharpen your sword, and some of those are going to convert. There's going to be some of those leads that, for argument's sake, were leads, and you're going to get off the phone with them and you're like, I don't know how I just got a contract with that person. You know, without those, like we don't have a business. And go back to Christian's statement, time changes circumstance. So like, I would rather, like, to me, a lead is somebody that owns a home and has raised their hand and I consider selling. Now, like, we've gotten leads delivered to us that have told us, like, I didn't tell them I wanted to sell. I can tell you with 1000% certainty that there's a ton of things where in one moment, I was intrigued at the idea of doing something. And then when I'm actually confronted with the proposition of doing it, I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not really that interested. And I raised my hand. Like, am I a lead? No. If a solid sales rep gets on the phone and like sells me on the value, like, salespeople are the easiest sold. I'm a freaking sucker for a good sales pitch. You run me through a good sales process, like I know for a fact I've bought things just simply because I was like, I really like that sales pitch.
The time changes circumstance thing is always the case because every single property, regardless, will sell. At some point, it will transfer ownership at some point from one person to another person.
Yep.
Jocko Willink said, embrace the suck.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's transfer this to embrace the suck e-leads.
Where would I rather that lead be? Because here's the reality, right? If I'm paying, whether it's AI or whether it's like a human cold call team, let's say I have a cold call team. Well, I do have a cold call team, human cold call team. I have six cold callers that are each being provided 12,000 new records every single month. So that's 36,000 new records, right? 36,000 times 12. That's 432,000 property addresses and leads or prospects will be given to these cold callers over the course of 12 months. What do you think the likelihood is? Now, keep in mind, they have a 10-line dialer, right? So it'll call them, right? But what do you think the fallout rate is where if they didn't send over a lead to me that was like, this one's kind of like on the fence, could be a good one, could be a one, right? Like, they didn't send it over. Me relying on them getting back a hold of them when that person is actually ready to sell, what do you think the likelihood that lead's coming back to me?
Less than 0.5%?
Yeah, very, very unlikely. The argument would be, okay, like, I don't need a CRM that does automated follow-ups because I'll just rely on them to follow up with it. But like, knowing that they're going to have 432,000 records in their system that they're trying to follow up with, the likelihood that they're going to get that guy is so infinitesimally small. I cannot rely on that for my business. So I leverage the software, and it's like, if that lead comes in and it's a lead at the time, guess what? The system is automatically going to follow up and nurture them. And more than likely, and as a matter of fact, I can just pull up a report right now and show you all time, ever since we've been in business, what the longest time a lead was in our follow-up sequence prior to them signing a contract. The longest lead that converted from it was generated and put in our CRM is 584 days. And that was a Facebook ad, which, by the way, a Facebook ad, that's not getting followed up with if I don't use my automated system. So like, would I rather that person not have clicked on the Facebook lead at the time because they were a lead? Because at the time they were a lead. Would I rather them not click on it and who knows what happens? Or would I rather them click on it And then I have a conversation with them that day. It's like, it's not really a great lead, but my system's going to follow up with them. We all know the answer, right? That's just a rhetorical question.
When are you guys purging your older leads? Like, what's the point where you're like, okay, this is dead?
If they literally say like DNC, do not call, like stop it, then that's the only way. But if they only say either A, they don't respond, or B, they say, no, I'm not interested, I've told you, then we'll keep it in the drip.
Yeah, what's Stan Merrill's quote?
Stan Merrill said, what do you got to do? You got to pick up the phone and keep terrorizing them until they either sell
or die.
Or what? Die.
Now I feel a lot more comfortable with creative because I've already anchored.
Here's the problem with wholesaling as a business model for an acquisitions person. We have literally zero risk. Why is that a problem? Let me ask you this. If you had to choose between the following two options, what would you choose? Wishing you got a deal under contract, or wishing you never got a deal under contract and could get out of a deal? It is way worse to have that bad deal and wish you could get out of that deal than it is to be like, I wish I locked up a contract. I wish I got a deal.
Yeah.
And wholesalers don't have that problem that like forces you to be good at your numbers.
100%.